Whew. It has been a full year, hasn't it? Holy cow, it's been a lot of a year. There has been a lot of year in this year. And that's not true for all years. Like every single year since the beginning of time, you can look at what was going on in the comic book and say, oh yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense that stories would go this way, that conversations between characters would go this way, because at the same time in the real world, this was happening and it was affecting, the general populace. And I find that really fascinating. So this year I wanted to go ahead and take a look back at 2025 and see, like, what does the media that we encountered, what does that say to us? And let's look at all the cool things that comic books and related superhero type media was doing. First, I want to go ahead and talk about the comic book news. Then I want to talk a little bit about movies and TV. Then we're going to talk about some video games, and then we'll... Okay, spoiler alert for the rest of the video. Superman was kind of a big deal. So it only made sense to combine all of the Superman news into that one segment, just put it all together. Then I wanted to talk a little bit about the channel and like a little bit of what's been going on here in my world. First things first, Ultimate Marvel has ended again. We started getting Ultimates again with a whole line of new books, and they made all kinds of decisions that we've been wanting them to make with these characters for a very long time, like how Peter Parker and MJ are actually together and they have kids, and like Peter was able to move on with his life, something we've wanted since the 90s but just keep getting denied. But they canceled it this year, and it feels like nobody is exactly sure why they did. There's some really interesting theories that Marvel as a whole is about to experience its first actual reboot, which will be really interesting. Marvel has never truly rebooted. A full, like, Crisis on Infinite Earth style reboot of Marvel, that would be insane and it would be crazy, but it would make a lot of sense because people are saying that the MCU is about to have a full reboot, and we know that's a thing. We know that's confirmed. The MCU is rebooting, and comics very often mimic the movies that they are based on / are basing on. Anyway, some theories are that Marvel is going to get a full reboot, and that Ultimate Marvel was kind of almost a test of what that was supposed to end up looking like, but nobody knows for sure yet. Now, the big thing that DC did this year, what I would say is their biggest thing, is all of their work with the Absolute universe. Absolute is this secondary timeline that's been going on in DC Comics where various heroes were rewritten with tweaked backstories and with tweaked settings. Now, the theme of these books I've found to really revolve around kind of like being champion of the oppressed. Each one of these books features a version of a familiar superhero in a world where oppression is turned up to 11. Things are just bleak and things are hopeless, and then you have these superheroes who show up and they're trying their best to undo these huge monstrosities, awful, terrible things that have happened to the world. I think that says something very interesting about the kinds of stories that we're wanting. It's less now that our comic books are saying something and more that they're kind of taking a stand against something, and I find that really fascinating. Now, as far as between the two, both Marvel and DC started releasing compact editions of certain books. DC did this a lot more successfully than Marvel did with their compact series, which is a great deal, and I highly recommend it to especially anyone who's new to comic books or new to superheroes or wants to explore a new character, because all of these, you're getting critically acclaimed stories, you're getting really successful stories. They aren't reprinting any that aren't successful or aren't interesting or aren't important, and they're all $10. Marvel is publishing their kind of version of this. It's not as successful. The books are a little bit more expensive, but it's kind of the same thing. They're taking their more popular stories that they've released over time and re-releasing them in a compact, easy to carry, easy to transport format that was really handy. As for me and like, I'm going to assume a lot of long-term collectors are concerned, these are great, but you probably already have a lot of the books already because, I mean, these are books that have been reprinted over and over and over. How many of us have more than one version of Kingdom Come, am I right? But again, it's like I said, for people who are brand new to any of these characters or want to read some of the books that like keep this medium alive, it's a great way to hop in. The other big news from both companies is this year we got another Marvel and DC crossover. And like, this is huge. We didn't think we would see this ever again. Like, the last one was decades ago, and it ended in like this really bad falling out between the two companies, and so we were pretty sure it wasn't going to happen again. But lo and behold, we got Batman Deadpool. And it wasn't just a Batman and Deadpool story, it was a big crossover between the two universes. And we have another one promised for next year, and it's going to be another Superman Spider-Man crossover where the book is focused on both of those lores specifically rather than company-wide. And I'm very excited for that. That's going to be a fun time. I'm look forward to hearing more about that. And then as far as the other kinds of comic book news go, the thing that really stood out to me is comic books are becoming a lot more international, and with webcomics they're becoming a lot more varied, and we're seeing a lot more crossover between them and more established properties and established stories going on. That audience is feeding into the new group of creators that are coming up, and it's showing us some really exciting stuff. And I'm noticing we're getting a much more unified comic book community. Everyone is showing up because they love comic books in general, but they're all coming in from a different direction, if that makes sense. Like, you have people who are coming in from the classic, Marvel and DC books. You have people who are showing up because they love webcomics, manga, and it's really fascinating. It's so cool to see. And I've just been blown away with just how different the comic book world became this year. Partially because the movies were popular, but also because I think people are starting to understand that a comic book is a comic book, and it's kind of silly to divide comic books by something as arbitrary as where did the writer and artist come from. I think that's really cool, and that says something really neat about the human experience. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about movies and TV right now. Marvel showed up in a big way. We got some Marvel Zombies. Marvel Zombies was really fun. I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy the ending of Marvel Zombies. I hated the ending. It's like, don't tease me with an ending like that after only giving me 4 episodes. Give me a full real season here. What are we doing? Why are animated series so short now? We got a new Captain America movie, and I liked it. I love Captain America. I really do. And Sam Wilson showing up in a real Captain America movie as the lead character. He is the title character. That was a lot of fun. I liked the story about just having the compassion to allow people to change and be different. Sam had to accept that General Ross wasn't the same person he used to be. General Ross is constantly fighting against the person he used to be as well. It was a really great angle on the redemption story where it wasn't necessarily just about obtaining redemption. It was about proving that you have it already, and that was really cool. That's not a story we see very often, and I really enjoyed it. I understand that movie in particular had a lot of changes in production and had a lot of reshoots, and I am very curious what it was originally supposed to look like. We get some glimpses. We get to see some characters in superhero suits that didn't have them, some supervillains in suits that didn't have them, some hints at events, and there was a lot of criticism that it's kind of a Hulk movie in disguise. I gotta tell you, I really liked it. Though I think my favorite movie from Marvel this year was Thunderbolts. Wow. The biggest thing is I remember when I was watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and John Walker shows up and he's playing one of the antagonist. I would say a tertiary antagonist who becomes an anti-hero by the end of the series, and just like being really interested in what this character was saying about what this world had become. They took the MCU, the world of Marvel Comics, and then asked a realistic question: if Captain America is gone and his successor doesn't want to be Captain America, what is the alternative that's going to pop up? The alternative that's going to pop up is what the government says makes sense on paper. And they will take this person, they will completely ruin his life, all in the name of trying to keep up public appearances. And I thought, you know what, that is bold. Everything related to Captain America has been very, very bold, and I've been loving it. So to watch Thunderbolts and to see John Walker come back and get his full, like, coming back around story arc, that was nice. I loved Bucky's performance in it. I loved seeing Bucky. He was really cool. I loved the other characters as well. It had the right blend of humor. It had the right blend of heart. I really resonated with the messaging of like how depression and anxiety can really limit a person and keep them from like fulfilling anything important in their lives. And it's like, you know what, this is an important movie. Sometimes I see a movie and it's like, you know what, that was good. And sometimes I see a movie and it's like, that said some really cool things. And then there's an important movie. I think this is an important movie. I think this said something that people need to hear and understand. And I was really impressed with it. Of course, the big headliner for Marvel this year was the Fantastic Four, which was huge because we've wanted a new Fantastic Four movie for a while. And they went in a really interesting direction with it, with its aesthetic, choosing to go with a 1960s retro future. It felt like the Jetsons. It looks like the Jetsons. It's pretty cool. And, you know, Fantastic Four is setting up a lot of big stuff. Doctor Doom is going to be the big villain of the Marvel movies in the next upcoming year. So, you know, I'm interested to see how that all turns out, especially when we're so close to the MCU having a true reboot. I want to know what that means for the Fantastic Four going forward. Are we going to lose the Fantastic Four right as we just got them back? I don't know. It'll be fascinating for me to see. More attention this year in the MCU has gone from just cranking out movies like they used to, and we get subpar, kind of ugly movies like Ant-Man and the Wasp was, and now we're getting really poignant, really directed, good stories in their movies again. They fixed their good movie machine. James Gunn took over DC fully and totally this year. It happened way late last year, but this year he really took charge and he's been making a lot of really cool things. One of those things is Creature Commandos. Creature Commandos is very Guardians of the Galaxy-ish in its execution, and at the end of it, it's like, you know what? I think I just watched a different Guardians of the Galaxy, but they had some really, really cool episodes, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that G.I. Robot kind of took the world by storm when he showed up. G.I. Robot was made for one purpose and one purpose only, and he did that purpose very, very, very well. And he kind of created a movement, because at the time Creature Commandos released, there was a lot of anxiety about that exact thing popping back up and kind of rearing its head again. And it's like, I don't think this was on purpose, but we kind of got a mascot to rally behind with that. And I remember all the memes that were being released, and even today, if you look on like TikTok and other places, people still have G.I. Robot as their profile picture out of some sense of protest, and it's fascinating that happened. Revenge of the Sith got an anniversary release. Spider-Man 1 through 3 got anniversary releases. Toy Story got a 30th anniversary release. I love Toy Story. You guys know this. Toy Story is my favorite thing of all favorite things. Alright, let's talk about games now. I want to talk about video games. What happened with Marvel is that Marvel Rivals has stayed strong this year. That's like the biggest thing. Then you also have DC that confirmed that they have things in the works and they have plans upcoming, but they also canceled the really anticipated Wonder Woman game. From both comic book publishers, we've gotten a lot of radio silence on upcoming games. I was talking to one of my friends, you can find him online as CapFacts, easily the best Captain America channel on TikTok, and he's also here on YouTube. We were talking about how there's supposed to be a Captain America game releasing early next year, and we have not heard any word about it, like at all this year. And it's like, is it still happening? They haven't said it's canceled, and it looked like it was really close to being done, and it looks really cool, and we really want to play it. Where is my Captain America game? And that feels like the case right now. Like, Marvel released a few low-budget arcade-style games, and that's great. I'm not discounting those, because those are fun in their own right. It's just the big AAA games that we were all expecting to get, we haven't gotten. And we only haven't gotten them, we don't even have any news for them, and that feels a little bit concerning to me. Okay, it's time to talk about all of the Superman stuff. Because holy cow, Superman came up in a big way this year. Oh, Superman is easily my favorite superhero. I love the character, I read all the books all the time, I love the character. And this movie did so much for the character and for the fan base and for comics in general. It did some really interesting things. I've heard people say that the difference, NerdSync said this, great YouTube channel, check out NerdSync as well. He said that the difference he noticed was that people were reviewing Fantastic Four positively, but people were talking about Superman. And that makes sense, because so much of this year, especially the middle of the year, especially the summer, revolved around Superman. Check this out. We had the Summer of Superman, which was this huge push within comic books. This never happens. We never see anything more than like a half-hearted comic book tie-in to the movie. But this year, almost all of the books that DC was pushing had some kind of Superman tie-in, be it a variant cover to the character classically, or some of them got a cover related to the movie. And that was really cool. We got a few new books. There was kind of a bit of a resetting within the Superman comics to, in one sense, make it more aligned with the movie, but in another sense just kind of like start things anew so that new readers can hop in and just, no questions, just enjoy the Superman story without a whole lot of baggage. But they still kept all of the backstory that happened. It's not like they got rid of any of the new characters that showed up. They all stayed. It's like, it was just really cool, this push that the movie made to the comics. They started selling Superman comics in places we haven't seen them in years, decades. We've been catching Superman comics in grocery stores. We caught them in dollar stores. We caught them at big box stores. We don't see this anymore. And that was fascinating to me. I'm hanging out on Comic Talk on TikTok, right? And like, so many people this year started reading comic books in general because Superman was just that good. That is something that I don't think any other comic book based movie has ever been able to do. Just completely change the market like that. And you could tell that this love for the base medium, for comic books, this continued on, because when they announced Superman 2, Man of Tomorrow, when they introduced that coming out in 2027, that they announced it by having comic book artists draw tie-in art to it. That is so unique. Usually it's a still, usually it's a photograph, and the MCU, when they were announcing Doomsday and all the people that would be in that, they made a video where they were showing off all of the actors' on-set chairs, which, fun fact, those chairs aren't real. You don't really ever see them on a movie set. They're only there so that people who are spending a lot of money on the movie can feel like it's a movie set. They're not real. Nobody actually uses them, and they're not comfy. But they were showing off all of those chairs, and that was how they made their big movie announcement, but DC decided, you know what, these are comic book movies, let's get the comic book artists to draw something. And that's unique. And I don't think people quite fully appreciate just how different that is, how different the marketing for DC's movies now is because of Superman. And now the next point I want to talk about with the Superman movie is also going to tie into the next overall topic, which is I want to talk a little bit about how this channel has gone and what that's been like for me during this year. Because Superman did a lot. Like, a lot of what I did on the channel happened because Superman happened. One of my most successful videos on this channel was my reaction to the Superman trailer. And that was fun. Oh, it was fun reacting to that and getting that out into the world, and people really appreciated what I had to say on that, and that was a lot of fun. And made some new theories, and I was wrong on some stuff, and I was right on some stuff, and it was a great time. I also got early admission to the movie. Not anything super special, I just got the Amazon early release a couple of days, which meant that I was able to get my movie review out a lot faster than I thought I was going to. And that was a lot of fun too. Like, just getting to talk about this movie and share my love of this character with other people who are now, for the first time in so many years, are seeing the character properly is really, really exciting. The groundwork was definitely laid down by Superman and Lois on the CW. That did a lot for the character's reputation. My Adventures with Superman, the animated series, that also did a lot for the character. But I've always believed that the thing that was going to pull Superman out of the rut that Injustice put him in was going to be a new movie, and it worked, and it was huge, and people loved it. And that was fun. I got to do a lot of cool things on my channel because of Superman, which also kind of indirectly led to the other really big thing I'm really proud of. I went to 3 Comic-Cons, and at those 3 Comic-Cons I had 4 panel presentations, and that was a blast. The first one was in Salt Lake City in Utah, where I got to give a presentation on the prototypes that built up Supergirl. Supergirl is coming out next year, and I thought, you know what, I wanted to talk about some of these books for a long time. So we talked about the publishing history of Supergirl and what that looked like. Next was So You Anime, which was this brand new first year convention that was happening down in southern Utah. And in that one, I got to give a presentation on how manga and comic books kind of affect each other, how Japan and America's culture mushed to give us these two mediums and what those were like. And then I gave a second presentation on how to make comics, which was great. That went off so well. It was basically a compressed, condensed version of a presentation course that I ran when I was in college. For, like, I talk about it in the intro trailer to the channel. For close to 4 years, I taught a weekly workshop on how to make comic books, and I coached people from idea to completion to printing with their own comic books. And I did a compressed version of that at this convention, and it's led to some really good things. And fingers crossed, I really hope that it leads into this thing that we've been looking at, where I'm going to keep doing that presentation as like a after-school education program. Fingers crossed. They've announced it, we just got to get enough people to sign up. And then the fourth presentation was at a brand new tabletop and board game convention that was taking place in Indiana. And that one, I talked about the history of superhero RPGs and how tabletop RPGs that wanted to incorporate the world of superheroes, what the challenges of that were, and how did they overcome those challenges, and what were the focus of these games. And it was all really cool. Right now, the Supergirl presentation that I did, that one is on YouTube, but you can see that one on the channel and how that went. The other presentations I wasn't able to film them at the conventions themselves, But, I mean, the topics are there, and I'm willing to turn them into videos, but right now I have a couple of other videos that I really need to get out and share with the world before I can do those. Now, as far as the things on the channel that I'm most proud of, I'm really proud of the Daredevil video. When Daredevil Born Again, oh my goodness, I didn't talk about Daredevil Born Again at all. Daredevil Born Again released, and it was really, really good. When Daredevil Born Again was getting released, I got a reproduction of the original #1 issue, and I covered that. And I did some really, really cool edits with that I'm really proud of, and I told the story in a really interesting way. And I'm really proud of that video. It very quickly became one of my favorites of all time on the channel. I'm also really proud of, and this was very recent, the Superman Christmas special that I did this year. I talked about Adventures of Superman number 480 something, and that particular book just kind of encompassed everything I loved about early 90s Superman, and I thought it would be fun to talk about it. And I did some really cool editing tricks I've been thinking about up here for a while but haven't incorporated, and then I incorporated them and it worked out, and it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with that video. There are definitely some things I would want to change. I mean, I feel that way about all of my videos, but like that one in particular I thought went over really well. One of the bigger things I think I did with the channel was in the short form stuff, on TikTok especially. What worked out really well there and in YouTube Shorts was I talked about some cartoon reviews. I was reviewing the Batman for a while and just giving a review on each episode as I was going through them, one per day. And then I was also giving once per day updates on my quest to write my own comic book here. I've done a lot of work making comics before. I'm not just telling people how to make comics without any experience. It's that I don't have anything that I felt comfortable making public facing, because what I've done before is mostly autobiographical. But I've had this story in my mind for a long time that I wanted to make and turn into a comic book, and so I've been writing it, and that was pretty cool. And a lot of that came to a screeching halt when some big life events happened. And now we're going to go ahead and get a little bit personal here. And I think a lot of people are going to be able to resonate with this. This year in particular had a lot of, let's be nice and let's say it had a lot of extra challenges associated with it. It's kind of been a lot. And because of that, a lot of things really just had to get put to the side because I didn't have the emotional or personal bandwidth to have to worry about them at the time. And I know I'm not alone in this year. I've had a lot of friends that have expressed concern over different events and things that happened during this year. I've had a lot of people tell me about how they're scared, or they're angry, or they're barely holding it together, and I get it. Because 2025, if we're to be completely honest with ourselves, it has been at best a divisive year, and at worst kind of a dangerous one for a lot of people. But I don't want us to get so caught up in that, especially when we look back at this year. I want to also point out just some of the amazing, beautiful things that happened. You know, we've been talking about the popular media that we've all been enjoying this whole time. So much of it, the Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, Captain America, Superman, all the movies that were released, the comic books that were released, and then like the actual human events that were happening out in the world proved that, you know, we really are all very united. We really are all on the same team as each other. Sometimes we might forget that a little bit, but out there where you have so many people who are united, who are trying so hard to help each other out, that see the good in people. And I don't want us to lose sight of that. I don't want us to lose sight of all of the great things that we've been able to accomplish in the past, whole history of the Earth and how we got here. The fact that people are scared and angry right now, I think that says something really important about who we are as people. We want to see good win out. We want to see hope. We want to see redemption for people. We want to see this happen. And that's a beautiful, wonderful thing. This year, I've been thinking a lot about the origins of various characters, the origins of these superheroes that we all love so much. And so many of them, I would wager all of them, were created during a time of discontent, we'll say. Like, you had characters that were being created prior to World War II that were like seeing events as they were happening and it didn't take a whole lot of effort to see where these events were going to lead. We may not even have known how bad they were going to be, but we could tell where things were headed. And what did they do? Some of the more vulnerable and scared of us, they created these characters that were bright and colorful and bold and said the thing that needed to be said and just helped people because that was the right thing to do. Superman was labeled champion of the oppressed because that's what he was when he was created. I recently was watching the old Zorro TV show that Disney made in the 50s. They labeled him champion of the oppressed. These were people who were fighting for truth and justice and freedom and equality for people. And I look at that and I look at today and it's like, we're still fighting that fight. We haven't lost it. I want us to remember that. I want us to remember that we haven't lost anything. So, hey, that's what I've got for us today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I want to hear about what your favorite event of the year was. Let's share some positivity. And let's also talk about what are some things we're really excited to see in the future. Please remember to be kind and civil, and until next time. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day, and remember to always be your best self.